You are running a free tier, and you have never once looked at who is on it. Every man is selling access to himself, his attention, his time, the use of his judgment, the ability to interrupt him. You are selling all of it right now, today, and you have been for about 20 years, and the price you set is zero for almost everybody who asks. You did not decide that, and that is the part worth sitting with. Nobody ever came to you with terms. There was no negotiation, and no moment where you agreed to anything. The price simply settled, early, out of a few hundred small yeses in your late 20s, and it has been the standing rate ever since, and everybody around you knows it except you. So this is the first law of a new arc, and it runs for 5 weeks, and it is about one question. What does it cost to get you? Not what you are worth, because those are different numbers, and confusing them is most of the problem. Let me be precise about what this is, because it is not a video about boundaries, and it is not a video about saying no. Saying no is a transaction. This is about the rate card underneath the transactions, which is a completely different object, and which is set by things you are not aware of doing. A man can say no all day and still have a free tier, because the tier is not made of the things he refuses. It is made of the things nobody has to ask for, and I will name the cost up front. There is a specific discomfort waiting for you at the fourth mechanism, and it is not the one you are expecting. It is not about other people at all. Most men feel it, recognize it, and then close the video rather than sit in it, and I would ask you to stay, because everything after it is the useful half. There is also a routine I want to show you before this is over. Every morning before dawn, for several hundred years, thousands of men in one city got up in the dark and walked to another man's door to stand outside it and wait. Not because they were desperate, because the waiting was the point, and the entire structure of that society was built on top of it. You are doing a version of it this week, and by the end of this, you will know which side of the door you are standing on, and I do not think you will like the answer. Machiavelli wrote a chapter on generosity that most people misremember as an argument for stinginess. It is not. His point was sharper and stranger than that. He said a ruler who is generous continuously will exhaust himself doing it, and that the generosity will stop being seen as generosity long before he runs out. It becomes his function, it becomes the baseline, and the day he cannot sustain it, he is not remembered for the years of giving. He is resented for the stopping, so the whole expenditure bought him nothing that lasts. The word he used for that reputation was one you would want, and the passage argues that you cannot buy it by giving. It arrives, if it arrives at all, from the opposite direction. 4 words in the comments before we start. I set the rate, type it exactly, and notice how uncomfortable it is to type, because for most of you, it is not currently true, and some part of you knows that while your thumb is moving. Here is the mechanism underneath all 6 of these, and once you have it, you will not be able to stop seeing it. Price is not set by value. Price is set by the last transaction. That is true of everything. And it is true of you. Nobody around you is assessing what your attention is worth in the abstract. They are remembering what it cost them last time. And if last time it cost them a 2-line message on a Tuesday afternoon, then that is your rate. And it does not matter how good the thing they got was, because quality does not set price. Precedent does, which means your rate was set by your worst defended moment, not your average. The cheapest thing you ever did establishes what the floor is, and every subsequent request gets priced against that floor, rather than against anything you have done since. Watch what that does across a working life. There is a man at every organization who is unmistakably the most capable person in his area, and who is also the person everybody feels comfortable interrupting. Those 2 facts sit side by side in the same man, and nobody finds it strange. because they were never connected in the first place. His capability is one thing, his rate is another thing, and it was set separately, years earlier, by a version of him who was new and eager and wanted to be useful. He has spent the years since improving the product and never once looking at the pricing. And the reason nobody tells him is that from the outside it looks like generosity, and generosity is a virtue, so pointing at it feels like an insult. So a whole building watches a man give away the most valuable thing he owns, agrees privately that it is a shame, and continues to take it because they would be foolish not to, and the man himself has never objected. And here is the turn, which explains why every previous attempt you have made at this collapsed inside a month. You tried to fix the price by refusing things. You picked a request, you said no, you held it. And you felt the small, hard satisfaction of having defended something. And then the following week, the rate was exactly where it had been. And you concluded that you had not been firm enough, and you resolved to refuse more. Refusing does not change a rate. Refusing is only ever a decision about one item. The rate lives underneath the items, in the standing conditions. What can happen to you without anybody asking? What you are assumed to be available for? What does not even register as a request, because it was never framed as one? That is why this arc opens here, rather than with a technique. You cannot negotiate a price you have never seen written down. Almost nothing on your free tier arrives as a request, which means almost none of it can be refused, which means refusing was never going to reach it. So we are going to write it down, 6 things, in order, loading like a magazine, because each one only becomes visible after the one before it. Mechanism 1. You have a free tier, and you never designed it. The first one is the simplest, and it is the foundation of the other 5. You have a free tier, it exists, and you did not design a single line of it. Every man is running one. There is a set of things about you that anybody in your orbit can have without asking, without paying anything, and without any decision on your part. Your reply within the hour, your attention when you are interrupted, your judgment on somebody else's problem, your weekend, conditionally, your willingness to absorb a change of plan, none of that was ever agreed. It simply accreted. And here is the thing that should genuinely bother you, which is that a designed free tier is a strategy, and an accidental one is a liability, and yours is entirely accidental. Because notice who is on yours, not the people you would choose. There is no correlation at all between how much of you a person gets, and how much that person matters to you. Check honestly, and you will usually find an inverse relationship, because the people who matter most are the ones you are most careful with, and so you ask them for the least. The person who gets the most of you for free is very often somebody you would not describe as important in your life at all. They are simply the person who asks most often, and asking often is the only qualification your current system checks for. So the exercise for this one is not a decision, it is an inventory, and you can do it in 10 minutes tonight. Write down the last 20 things that took a piece of your attention, and beside each one, write who it was for. Not what it was, who. Then look at the list of names and ask whether that distribution is one you would have chosen if anybody had shown it to you in advance. It never is. That is the point of the exercise, and it is why this is mechanism 1. I set the rate. One word before mechanism 2. Is the person who gets most of your attention somebody you would have chosen? Yes or no? That is the whole comment. I expect the no's to run at about 4-1, and I would like to be shown otherwise. Mechanism 2. Interruptibility is the deepest discount. Everything else you give away is a thing you hand over once. This one you hand over continuously, and it costs more than all the others combined, and it has never appeared on any accounting anywhere, because it has no unit. Here is what interruptibility actually is. It is not being reachable. Reachable is fine, and it is normal. and a man who cannot be reached is simply difficult. Interruptibility is the standing condition that whatever you are currently doing is understood by everybody, including you, to be lower priority than whatever somebody else brings. And you can hear it in how people approach you. Sorry, have you got 2 seconds? Quick one. Sorry to jump in. Every one of those phrases is a small apology attached to an act that both parties have agreed is permitted. And the apology is what makes it feel courteous rather than what it is, which is a withdrawal from an account nobody is tracking. The cost is not the 2 seconds. Nobody has ever been ruined by 2 seconds. The cost is that deep work has a warm-up, and the warm-up is where the value is. And an interruption does not cost you the length of the interruption. It costs you the warm-up again. So a man interrupted 5 times in an afternoon has not lost 10 minutes. He has lost the afternoon, and he will finish it tired, and he will not be able to say what he did with it. Now here is the part that separates this from ordinary advice about focus. The reason you permit it is not weakness, and it is not disorganization. It is that being interruptible is the single clearest evidence available that you are needed. A man nobody interrupts has to find some other way of knowing he matters, and that is a harder thing to arrange. And on a bad week, the interruptions are genuinely the only proof he has. That is a real trade, and I am not going to pretend it is a stupid one. But look at the price. You are buying a feeling that lasts about 4 seconds, several times a day, with the only asset that produces anything you would be proud of. The move here is smaller than you think, and it is not about doors or headphones. It is one sentence, delivered warmly, and the whole trick is that it does not refuse. Give me 20 minutes and I will come to you. That is it. You have not said no, you have not made anybody feel rebuffed, and you have moved the interruption from their clock onto yours, which is the entire game. Do it 3 times this week and watch what happens, because what happens is nothing. Nobody is offended. Almost nobody even remembers, and the afternoon survives. 20 minutes. Then you. Mechanism 3, the unpriced yes. This is the one where the yes costs you real time and returns nothing. And you know that, while you are agreeing, and you agree anyway. Be precise about which yeses these are, because not all of them are unpriced. A favor that builds something is priced. It buys goodwill you will actually use, or standing you will actually hold. Or it is simply for somebody you would help regardless. Because that is what the relationship is, and that is a purchase you made deliberately. Fine, leave those alone. The unpriced yes is the other kind. It is the one where you can already tell, in the moment of agreeing, that nothing comes back. Not gratitude, not reciprocity, not standing. The task will be absorbed, it will be assumed to have been easy for you, and by next month, nobody involved will remember it happened, including you, until the following one arrives. And here is the belief that keeps you doing it, which I want to name, because it is the load-bearing wall. You believe that keeping score is petty. You do believe that. Most decent men do. Somewhere you learned that a man who tracks what he gives and what he gets is small-minded. And you decided not to be that, and the decision was honorable, and it has cost you more than any single mistake in your career. So let me separate 2 things that got welded together. Keeping score against people is petty, and it corrodes you, and I am not asking for it. But keeping an account of your own capacity is not scorekeeping. It is basic competence, and every professional in every field does it, and refusing to do it does not make you generous. It makes you a man who cannot tell you what his week costs. You are not tracking them, you are tracking you. The move is a question, asked internally, before any yes that will take more than an hour. What does this buy? And there are exactly 3 acceptable answers. It buys something concrete. It buys standing with somebody specific whose opinion I actually use. Or it buys nothing, and I am doing it anyway because I want to, deliberately, and I have said so to myself in those words. That third answer is completely legitimate. The failure is not generosity. The failure is generosity that was never chosen, which is not generosity at all. It is just a rate somebody else set. I ask what it buys. Give me a number before the fourth one. How many hours went to unpriced yeses last week? Not this month. Last week, 2, 6, 11. Just the number. Nothing after it. I want to see the shape of that distribution, because I suspect the honest figures are much larger than the polite ones. Mechanism 4. Proximity is not presence. And this is the discomfort I warned you about at the start. So stay with it. Being constantly around does not make you present. It makes you furniture. Here is the mechanism. And it is not intuitive until you see it once. Attention is relative. A man who is in every meeting is not registered as being in any meeting. His contribution is averaged across all of them, and the average of everything is nothing in particular. Whereas a man who attends 4 meetings out of 10 and speaks in 3 of them is remembered for 3 specific things. Same man, same quality of thinking, roughly a third of the time spent. And the second version is the one people describe as sharp, while the first version is described as reliable. And those 2 words have very different futures attached to them. Now here is the uncomfortable part, and it is why I flagged it. Your presence in most of those rooms is not a contribution. It is attendance, and some part of you has always suspected that, which is exactly why leaving them feels so dangerous. Being there is the thing you have, instead of being needed there. You cannot be sure which one you have until you test it, and the test can come back badly. That is the real reason men do not cut their meetings. Not scheduling. It is fear of the readout. Sit with that rather than arguing with it, because arguing with it takes about 90 seconds and produces a list of reasons your situation is different, and I would rather you had the 90 seconds. The move is one meeting, not a policy, not a conversation with anybody. Pick the single recurring commitment you are least sure you are needed at, and miss it once, and do not explain why, and watch what happens. One of 2 things will. Either nothing happens, in which case you have found a real line item on your free tier, and you can price it. Or somebody comes and finds you afterwards, which means you were genuinely needed there, and now you know that, and knowing it is worth considerably more than the hour was. Both outcomes are wins. That is rare enough to be worth noticing, and it is why this is the one to do first, if you only do one thing from this video. Proximity is not presence. Now stop for 30 seconds and do this properly, because the anchor will not land as anything more than a story otherwise. Name the single largest item on your free tier. Not a person, but a standing condition. The thing that happens to your time without anybody having to ask for it. Then answer the harder half. Who set that condition, and roughly when? Most men can name a year, and it is almost always earlier than they expect, and it is almost always a year in which they were trying to prove something to somebody who has since left the company. And settle something for me, because this splits people hard, and I want the argument running underneath the video. Is a man who is always available generous, or is he simply avoiding the harder work of choosing? Half of you will say availability is a virtue, and that the alternative is coldness, dressed up as strategy. The other half have watched a generous man get quietly used for a decade. Pick one, generous or avoiding. Now the routine, because it is time. For several hundred years, in Rome the day started in the dark. Well before dawn, across the city, men would get up, put on the formal toga, which was heavy and awkward, and not what anybody wore by choice, and walk, sometimes a considerable distance, to the door of another man's house. And then they would wait outside it. They were called clients. And the man behind the door was the patron, and the practice was called the salutatio, the morning greeting. When the doors opened, they would be admitted, in an order, and that order mattered enormously to everybody standing in it. Some men were shown straight through to speak with the patron privately. Some were received as part of a group. Some were greeted collectively in the hall and then dismissed, having achieved nothing except the fact of having been there and been seen to be there. And then many of them would walk with him to wherever he was going that morning, in a visible crowd, because the size of a man's morning crowd was a public statement of his standing that everyone in the street could count. Now, hold the mechanism, because there are three things running at once, and each of them is in this video. The first is that access was rationed, and everybody knew it. Nothing about the arrangement was hidden. The queue was in the street, in daylight, and the ordering of it was the message. The second is that the wait was not humiliating to the men waiting. This is the part that is hard for us to feel. Now, they were not being degraded. They were participating in a structure where the cost of access was the proof of its worth, and a patron whose door stood open to anybody at any hour was not a generous patron. He was a man of no consequence, because a queue is what standing looks like from the outside, and nobody queues for a thing that is freely available. And the third is the part that matters most for you. The patron was not idle in this arrangement, and he was not simply harvesting. He owed them things, legal support, backing in disputes, a meal, sometimes money. It was reciprocal, and both sides knew the terms. What made it function was not that he gave nothing. It was that what he gave was specified, and what it cost to receive it was specified, and neither side was confused about either. That is the whole difference between that system and yours. Not generosity versus stinginess. Yours is generous. Yours is simply unspecified, in both directions, which means you cannot audit it, and neither can anybody else. And an unspecified arrangement always drifts toward whoever asks most often. I would rather you check this than take my version of it. Look up the salutatio and the patron and client relationship in Rome. The details vary by period and by source, which is why I have kept this general, and the general shape is well documented and not in dispute. Mechanism 5. The upgrade is silent. When you raise your rate, you do not announce it. The urge to announce is enormous, and it feels like integrity. You have decided to change how you operate, and it feels dishonest to just start doing it. So you want to tell somebody. You want to explain that you are going to be less available on Thursdays now. And here is the reasoning, and you hope they understand. And the moment you do that, you have converted a fact into a proposal. An announced rate is a rate that was submitted for approval. It can be discussed, it can be objected to, it can be negotiated down in the same conversation. And even if it is not, it can be quietly eroded over the following 3 months, because it exists as an agreement rather than as a condition, and agreements are the kind of thing people revisit. An unannounced rate is not a proposal, it is simply how things are. There is no conversation to reopen because there was never a conversation. People adjust to it the way they adjust to weather, which is to say completely, and without resentment, and without ever quite noticing they did. There is a second reason not to announce, and it is less obvious and more important. Announcing tells everybody that this is difficult for you. A man who simply becomes less interruptible has changed. A man who explains that he is going to become less interruptible has told you 3 things. That he is attempting something, that it is costing him effort, and that there is a version of him underneath who would rather not, which tells everybody exactly how much pressure would be required to bring the old version back. So you change the behavior, and you say nothing at all about the behavior. If somebody asks directly, you answer briefly and without a policy attached. I am heads down on something this month. That is complete. It requires nothing further, and it invites nothing further. The new rate stands, or it does not, and it will stand precisely to the degree that you never discuss it. I do not announce the rate. Mechanism 6, choose who gets it free. Mechanism 6, the last one, and it is the one that stops all of this from turning you into someone unpleasant. You should absolutely have a free tier, deliberately named. Everything so far has been about the fact that yours was never designed, and the correction is not to abolish it. A man with no free tier at all is not formidable. He is transactional, and people can feel transactional at about 20 paces and they root around it permanently. The correction is to design the thing, which means deciding, on purpose, who gets you at 0. Pick 3 or 4, and not by seniority or by who asks most. By who you would want in your corner in 5 years. And that is almost never the same as the list of people currently receiving the most of you. And then be genuinely, visibly, unreasonably available to those 3 or 4. Not measured, and not rationed. When they call you pick up. When they ask for something they get it, and you never once do the accounting on it. Because that is what a chosen free tier is for, and the whole value of it is that it is unconditional. Here is why this is mechanism 6 and not mechanism 1. Concentration only means something if there is scarcity elsewhere. If you are unreasonably available to everybody, then being unreasonably available to your 4 means nothing to them, because they cannot tell they are inside anything. Scarcity is what makes the free tier a signal rather than a default. The men in the pack who run this arc in order will find that 6 is the only mechanism the others exist to make possible. So the sequence matters. You price the general access first, and then the specific access becomes legible. The 4 people who matter find out that they are the 4 without you ever telling them, because they can see the difference between how you treat them and how you treat the building. That is the whole design, expensive by default, unreasonable for 4, 4 get it free. Name the number, 1 to 6. Which mechanism are you actually going to run this week? And I mean the one you will do, rather than the one that sounds best. 1 digit, that is the whole comment I will say now that I think 4 is the most valuable. And 2 is the one most of you will pick, and I would be pleased to be wrong. Before the turn, the warning, because there is an ugly version of this, and it is easy to build without meaning to. You can take all 6 of these and become expensive to everybody and available to nobody, and it will feel like discipline for about 4 months, and then you will notice that nothing arrives anymore. Not requests, anything at all, no opportunities, no early information, no invitations to things that had not been formed yet. Because access runs both ways, and this is the thing men forget. Being reachable is how you find out about things before they are decided. The man who has priced himself out of every casual conversation has also priced himself out of the room where casual conversations turn into plans. And nobody will ever tell him that happened, because from the outside, it looks like he simply was not interested. So here is the test that keeps this honest, and it is one question asked monthly. Am I hearing about things earlier or later than I did 6 months ago? If the answer is later, you have overshot. You did not become expensive. You became peripheral, and those 2 things look identical from the inside and are opposite from the outside. The target was never to be hard to reach, it was to be worth reaching. Now the turn, and it is not where you have been standing. For the last 30 minutes, you have been picturing yourself as the patron. The man behind the door, with the queue outside it, deciding who gets shown through. Every mechanism in this video has been about your door and your rate and who is on your tier. You are not the patron, you are in the street, in the dark, in the uncomfortable clothes. Look honestly at your morning. The first hour of most of your days, is spent presenting yourself at other people's doors, in an order somebody else set, waiting to find out whether today you get admitted properly or greeted collectively and dismissed. The inbox is a queue and you are standing in it. The message thread that was running before you woke up is a hall you are being received in. And you walk with them afterwards, in the visible crowd, for the rest of the day. And the size of the crowd around somebody else's morning is a statement about their standing rather than yours. Nobody made you do that. There was no summons. You put on the toga yourself before dawn, because a queue is a place where things happen, and standing in it feels like participating. And here is what makes it genuinely expensive rather than merely undignified. The Roman client got something for it. The terms were specified. He got legal backing and support in disputes and a meal. And the arrangement was reciprocal, and both parties could have told you what it was. You are queuing without any terms at all, and there is a second half, and it is harder than the first. You have kept the price at zero on purpose, not consciously, but not accidentally either. Here is the actual mechanism, and it is the most uncomfortable thing in this arc. A free thing cannot be refused. If your attention costs nothing, then nobody ever declines it, and you never find out what it is worth. The moment you attach a price to something, you learn a number, and the number might be lower than the one you have been carrying around privately for 20 years. Somebody might decide, when access to you costs a wait, or an effort, or a scheduled hour, that they would rather not. And that is genuinely a risk. I am not going to soften it. Some of the people who are currently in your life at zero are there because of the price, rather than because of you, and pricing yourself will show you which ones, and it will not be a comfortable month. So the free tier is not weakness, it is insurance. It is the thing that guarantees you will never receive a low valuation, by ensuring that no valuation is ever performed. And you have been paying for that insurance, with about 4 hours a week for 2 decades, which is the most expensive policy any man has ever bought against a number he was afraid to see. You did not fail to price yourself, you declined to do it. So here is what changes, and it is one thing, not 6. Take one line item off the free tier, and I mean one. The single largest one you named in the audit, and put a price on it, and the price does not have to be large. A wait, or a scheduled time instead of an interruption. 20 minutes, then you do not announce it, do not build a system, do not tell anybody this video existed, and then watch for the thing that arrives in about 6 weeks, because it is not the thing you expect. You will assume the win is time, and you will get some time back, and it will be pleasant, and it will not be the point. The actual win is that you find out what you are worth from the outside, with a real number attached. Some things will fall away, and you will learn that they were never about you. And some people will pay the new price, without a word of complaint immediately, as though it had always been the rate. Those are the people who were valuing you correctly the whole time, and who simply took what was offered because you were offering it. That second group is always larger than a man expects. That is the part nobody tells you. Most of your free tier is not being exploited, it is being accepted, politely, by people who would have paid full price if you had ever named one. 4 get it free, 6 lines. They are yours now. I set the rate, 20 minutes then you. I ask what it buys. Proximity is not presence. I do not announce the rate. 4 get it free. One of those landed harder than the other 5. Put that one below with your mechanism number beside it. And I read every one of them. Subscribe if you want the rest of this. 4 more in this arc, and they are built in order. And you are one of the pack now, whether you asked to be or not. Next Thursday, you have a rate, and you now know roughly what it is. But there is a second list you have never seen, which is everything you hand over before anybody has asked for it. Not the yeses, the things that leave you without a request ever being made, And there are 6 of them. And they are the reason your rate keeps resetting to 0, no matter how carefully you price the visible items. 6 things you give away before anyone asks. That is next. Say it once more and mean it. I set the rate. Somewhere it is dark, and men are putting on the toga.